Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on our virtual session this evening. Tonight, we're talking about boat launches in Niagara Parks. I'm Steve Barnhart, Senior Director of Parks, Environment, and Culture, and I'll be facilitating tonight's session and passing along questions to our senior staff. As you may have seen in the media, we have plan this spring to introduce a boat launch parking fee. And the objective tonight is to really get as many people commenting on how you'd like to see those fees reinvested into the boat launches. So we will be leading you through a presentation. We have an opportunity to pass along questions to senior staff that are joining us tonight. And before we begin, I'd just like to go over a few housekeeping items to make sure that we can make the session flow as well as possible and answer your questions as efficiently as possible. So tonight, our presenter joining me is Marcelo Grosso, who is the Senior Director of Engineering, Parking, and Transportation, and he will be, welcome Marcelo, and he'll be leading us through the presentation, summarizing the initiative, and certainly going through each of the boat launch sites to provide an overview of some of the conditions. So following the presentation portion, we're going to have a formal question and answer period. And if you would like to submit a question or a comment, please do so. If you're familiar with the Zoom, there's a Q&A button. Please use the question and answer chat menu to submit your questions, and then at the end of the presentation, I'll be reading the questions out so people can hear, and Marcel will be providing answers. Also joining Marcel this evening is Chris Siddell, who's the Manager of Operational Compliance, and Corey Brandt, our Project Manager of Forest Health, and both of them will be able to provide specific questions to answer anything that comes up in their area of expertise. And for those who can't participate tonight, we are going to actually provide a survey, a link out to all those involved. And then on our website, the survey will also be available for those who wish to provide information at a later time. The results of this presentation, the recording and questions will be posted on the project website, which is niagaraparks.com/boat launch. And again, we'll go through these items later on this evening. So with that, this time I'd like to pass over the presentation to Marcelo, who will take you through the next bit of information.
Thank you, Steve, and good evening, everyone. Now, Steve, I think you're having a little bit of bandwidth problems, so I don't know if you can check that just so we can maybe fix that a little bit later on. Thanks. But let's get started with the presentation. So we're going to talk a little bit about the boat launches, and go to the first slide, please. So just a little bit about who we are and what we do at the parks. So the parks is an operational enterprise. And what that means is that we don't receive any tax dollars. Part of our mandate is that we need to be self-sufficient and not a burden on the government or anyone. Just about what we maintain, we got over 100 buildings. We have 56 kilometers of parkway, 53 kilometers of recreational trail, thousands of acres of grass that we cut, maintain, a lot of beautiful horticultural displays that we plant and have for tourists and for locals. We plow and salt the parkway to keep it safe for residents and for tourists. And in 2019, we had a record year. And in 2020, unfortunately, we've had not a record year, but about 15 to 20% of what we did in the previous year. You know, a lot of businesses have been impacted, including the Niagara Parks, but we still have to maintain a lot of infrastructure. And tonight we're going to talk about boat launches because we do recognize that they need some work. And our goal is not to, you know, simply walk away and close them, but instead it's to keep them open, to hopefully bring in a little bit of revenue as to, you know, what we're going to talk about tonight with some minimal fees, and get your feedback as the people who use the boat launches and the sites, so that we can prioritize the work that is going to happen. So next slide, please. So we put up a map so that you can see visually. Maybe not everybody knows or is aware of all of our boat launch sites. So in the lower river, we have the one site at Queenston that you'll see on the map. And then as we're moving towards Fort Erie, we've got the Ushers boat launch, the Netherby, Millers Creek, Anger, and Nichols. So next slide. So the objective of the session, I know both Steve and I mentioned it, but we're going to talk mainly about the repairs and the improvements that are being recommended at the site. Staff has done a review, so we have some ideas. We want to share those with you, and then we want to hear from you. But the goal is safe sites so they can operate, so that people can access the river and enjoy it. That is part of our mandate as well. So we are introducing a new boat launch parking fee. That's what we're calling it. There is an annual pass available for frequent users, and that'll provide Niagara Parks some revenue so we can begin to fund the repairs and the site improvements. We're going to utilize a pay and display system. It's the same system we use throughout our parking lots, and we'll start that process for 2021. So here is where we're looking for your input to reinvest into each of those sites. We even are going to approach the difficult subject of, does it make sense to close one or two of those sites so that we can focus our efforts on the primary sites? But that's where we want to hear from you, site by site. So next slide, please. So a little bit about how the fee is introduced, how it's going to work. So you could purchase an annual pass at the play and display machine itself, and that would be located at each site. That annual pass, and I want to make this clear, is it gives you the opportunity to use all 6 sites. So you're not paying multiple times. If you buy a launch pass or a launch parking pass, you will be able to go to all sites, whenever you want, and park there and utilize them. The way the annual pass will work is it's for a year. So if you choose to buy a pass on April 14th, then it will be good until the following April 14th. So I just wanted to point that out. As soon as you use the machine, you receive a ticket from the machine. You could place that on your dash, and then you're good to do what you need to do at the site. If you want a more robust pass, we're going to offer passes where you can come pick them up at Falls Parking. We can also mail them to you. And we're also hoping that by next year, by March, we'll have the ability that you could purchase the pass online. So annual pass, or if you're not interested in an annual pass, you would pay a $10 daily fee. So that would be good for the entire day when you're launching your boat and parking your vehicle. If you have any technical issues with the machines or the equipment, we have some 1-800 numbers or some detailed numbers right on the machine. If you dial that number, it'll take you right to one of our parking attendants, and they can help, they can answer questions. They can even come out to the site if there's an issue and that needs to be done. We do plan to enforce it. We do have parking enforcement officers that work through the park, and this is really the same idea. As long as you've purchased your annual pass or you've bought your daily pass, that information goes into a database, and our enforcement officers will know that you've bought an annual pass, so you wouldn't be ticketed. If for whatever reason you were ticketed or there was any concerns, you could call that same number on the machine itself, and we would be able to help you and deal with any issues. So that's a little bit about the pass. So the daily $10 fee or the annual pass of $120, and valid for all sites for 1 year from the date that you purchase it. We just put up in the photo here an example where the city of St. Catharines had a similar setup, same machine. So we just wanted to show you what that would look like. But if you've been through the park, it's the same type of parking equipment that we use throughout all of Niagara Parks. So next slide, please. So we did do some research. We had staff speak to multiple sites, and we just wanted to show this slide just to show that the fee is in line with what is out there today. We definitely know our sites need work, hence we're here today so that we can prioritize that work. But this gives you an idea that the fee is within reason, and it just summarizes what's in the area today. Next slide. So we wanted to talk a little bit about each of the sites. This is the Queenston boat launch site, Lower River. We gave you some data that hopefully you could see there, just to give you the ramp width, the length, what the parking kind of area looks like, and then some of the things that our staff identified in terms of current issues. So these are our current kind of issues that we want to tackle, which is shoreline erosion in that area, the parking area capacity, which seems to be a problem or a concern, and the retaining wall in that particular area. So that would be it for Queenston, but we'll come back to it later when Steve starts to look for feedback to come in, questions or comments. So next slide. Ushers, again, ramp roughly about the same in the 5-meter mark. Ramp length approximately 12 and a half meters. And we want to hear from you. Are these too short? What kind of boats are going in? What would you like to see? Parking area here, again, quite small. The dock length at 14 meters. We know we need to do some asphalt ramp repairs. We know the ramp is deteriorated, the concrete section. The goal here, and we know we need repairs to the dock and the steel support pads, but help us prioritize it so that we can get this right, because it's going to be a slow and steady process. As a little bit of funding comes in, we'll be able to start to do some repair work on these launch sites. Next site, Netherby. So again, similar in size. This is actually one of the sites that I'd like to hear from you as well as to potential closure, or no, if that's not desirable, if a lot of people are using it, then please let us know. But this is one that we looked at potentially closing and trying to look at combining our resources on the rest of the 5 launch sites. Again, tell us if there's one in particular you think could be closed, or if all are required and are heavily used. And you can see the current issues, again, very similar. Repairs to the asphalt ramp, repairs to the dock are required, shoreline work is required. So a lot of different areas that we'll have to tackle and prioritize. Next site, Miller's Creek, one of our, our small marina, a beautiful site. What we'd like to do here is ask for the same type of feedback. What I would like to address is that if you are a slip holder, you do not have to pay this fee. And let me just qualify that. So as a slip holder, you drive into the compound, for lack of a better word, or the fenced in area, and you're fine there. Now, if you want to park in that outside lot where it says Lot E, in front of everything, well, then you would be required to purchase either the annual pass or the boat launch fee. But the way this was planned was you've already, as a slip holder, have paid your fees, and you can enter into the site, once you've launched your boat. So that's included with getting into the water, and then you can enjoy the services from there. So just wanted to make sure that was clear. Here again, we know there's asphalt repairs required on the ramp, replacement of the wood sections of the dock, some leveling work we have to do. And then unfortunately, tragically, we've also had some docks that have been taken out in the last storm. So we are looking at how we're going to handle those repairs. That's just added a lot of cost to this particular site. So we'll be looking at that in the next few weeks. So next slide, please. Anger Avenue, a little bit narrower, not as long. You can see the dock length. Parking seems to be always an issue, but tell us, is it about, the size of the parking? Is it more that we should focus on, the paving of the smaller lot? And then, of course, leveling docks and replacement of timber, something we have to do to keep these sites safe. Next slide. Nichols, similar. I won't go through every detail. We've got to do some work there in the water. We've got to abide by all the regulations in terms of when we can work in the water. So we'll have to plan that. We've got some deterioration in the parking lot, the ramp, and we've got shoreline erosion issues. So we'll have to look at stabilizing that and prioritizing this work again. And next. So what we've done here is we've put together a summary, and we did this with staff. And now we want to hear from, the boaters. What we'll do is we'll enhance this. So we put what we thought the immediate improvements were that we briefly touched on site by site. And then we're going to look at which of the items are a bit more longer term. They're going to take a bit more dollars. So we'll have to see as we build the dollars, as we get stronger again with the economy, so we can tackle more of the long-term items. But you'll see, like, for example, Anger Avenue, if it becomes a big priority to expand that parking area, which we thought was important from what we've heard to date from people, from emails, from calls, and we have to reconstruct some of the ramp, the paved portion, then we have to do archaeological assessments. So we've got to follow those provincial guidelines, and we have to make sure we do the right things, before we dig and expand a parking lot and take out green areas. So we want to, talk that through and hear from you. Is that even important, expanding that particular parking lot? Is it a site that we could close or not? So we can focus on less sites and trying to do a good job of bringing them back to life. So next slide is just a little bit about the next steps. Following the session, we've got a brief in terms of the number of questions, but detailed survey that will be emailed for you. And we want that additional feedback. The written feedback is really important. That gives us the documentation. That allows us to analyze even the information we hear tonight. If you can do the survey, really, really important, because then we can quantify and all the information and go from there. Now, we are recording the session and any of the materials we've shown, so you'll have all the data. It's posted on the niagaraparks.com/boat launch site. And that's where residents who are unable to attend, if you've got some friends that would like to express their comments, their concerns, their questions, please direct them to the site. And we're looking forward to getting the feedback, completing the survey. If you need anything else at all, we have a Niagara Parks Guest Services Center. And there's a phone number that we've put on the slide. There's an email address, and they're excellent at getting back to you. They'll reach out to myself, to Chris, to Corey, if there's any other questions or concerns that you need answered. So I think I'm gonna turn it back to Steve on the next slide, and he's gonna get the session started, and we'll go site by site. And that way we can collect the information in an organized fashion, and we can hear your comments and concerns from each boat launch site.
Thanks, Marcelo. I just want to check my audio with you. Am I still sounding a little better now, or?
Yeah, it does sound better now. Thank you, Steve, for doing that.
Okay, yeah, and just certainly interrupt me if I start to break up. I'll turn my video off, which would help as well. Okay. So as Marcelo said, the next series of slides, we'd like to spend a few minutes at each location. Now, again, you have an opportunity to reflect.
Okay, Steve, you're breaking up. Maybe you could turn your video off, and we could hopefully go from there. If not, I could take over.
You saw tonight.
Yeah, we're having a hard time hearing you, Steve.
Yeah, how's that now? Any better?
Okay.
Or?
Yep, let's go. That sounds better.
Let's try it out. So I've got a couple of questions. I'll start off. If we can go to the first slide anyway, just to get it queued up for Queenston. But I am going to read the first question, which is more general in nature. Will any of the collected fees go towards canoe and or kayak launch docks or facility. So the question is really asking around the installation of a canoe or kayak dock design for people with different ability challenges.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely take that question. So the fees are meant for the existing infrastructure for, launching boats, whether powered or not powered, or if people could use them for launching other, canoes or kayaks. But I think that's what we want to hear from you. If the site currently doesn't work for you and you have feedback like that, we can definitely look at that in the future. But it is meant for the current infrastructure to bring it back into the best that we can without a full replacement, so that we can keep the site open.
All right, thanks, Marcelo. So the next question, do you think it's reasonable to be charging market rates for boat launches given their very poor quality and that any improvements will likely be many years away?
Well, I can tell you that the plan is that we're going to take the feedback, prioritize, and we will perform or do some improvements before we open up this season. And considering the lack of funding and the situation, we will need to collect some type of funds so that we can make those improvements. So I do believe it's reasonable, considering that we're providing that service and that access, and we want to bring it to a state that keeps it intact and remains safe. Because the only alternative is that we start to close sites, and that is not something that anybody wants to do today.
Okay, thank you, Marcelo. So we're going to try and focus on Queenston now, and I see there are some questions coming in. So feel free to, if you can flag it, it's a Queenston question. The questions are queuing up, so I'll do my best to go through them.
Sure.
But there isn't really an opportunity to go back and forth on the same question too much. So we've got about 5 minutes per site, and then if there's time at the end, we'll loop back and carry on with the remaining questions.
Okay.
So the next question is, what is the approximate cost for all the repairs modifications?
So again, we would have to go site by site. We'd have to prioritize. But from the assessments, we've done several hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's why we have to tackle in smaller bits and bytes, deal with any of the safety issues, of course, so they can remain open. And then over a few years, start to make some more, let's say, longer term improvements. We're not looking at doing any full replacements right now. So the shorter term is the repairs, the prioritizing of the work with your feedback, and then moving into the longer term, potentially full replacement or even change in designs. But several hundreds of thousands of dollars it adds up to between the 6 sites.
Okay, thank you. So the next question, again, I believe this is a Queenston question, as it references the jet boat area. So is it possible to take over the jet boat area and make 2 ramps with a washroom? So again, that would be a Queenston question.
Yeah, so that's one that I would check from a property perspective. So I couldn't answer it right now, but we'll take it back because I believe the area you're referring to may not be property that we can take over and utilize. And then I guess the second point to that would be even more dollars required to do something like that. Whereas right now we need to start slow and steady and repair what we have to a point that you can continue to use it, and then look at the longer term options of a replacement, a move of a dock, a closure of a site to focus our money on a few of the sites. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay. Next question is a general question related to fees. Has any consideration been given to a senior discount?
You know what? We could take that feedback back. We felt that the fees were reasonable, and again, we're trying to raise a bit of funds so we can do all this work. But we can take that back as a comment. But we did not plan for a seniors rate. I can tell you that from a parking perspective, we are introducing a senior rate across the park. But for these boat launch sites, because of the infrastructure dollars required, we had not planned a seniors rate, but we'll take that back.
Okay. Next question, it's Queenston. Parking and maintenance is a big issue at Queenston. How will these fees address that? That was not highlighted as a main concern for Queenston.
Yeah, so that's what we wanted to hear. If parking rises to the top as one of the higher priority issues with the individuals that are using that site, then we would focus some of our efforts and monies first on dealing with the parking area. I can tell you we have looked at the upper area to potentially expand parking, because I've heard that concern in the past. So if you can help us with your feedback, do the survey, put that in your comments on Queenston, then that can become one of the higher priorities for Queenston.
Okay. Next question is related to construction. So are you going to use a construction company that knows how to properly make dock repairs? So I guess there's a concern about the quality of contractors that could be engaged in this work.
Yeah, I don't think I would comment on the quality of the contractor. I can respect the comment and the opinion, but the answer would be that if we're moving into larger repairs and we can't do them ourselves, then we would contract it to somebody that has experience in doing that type of work.
Okay. Next question is a general. What about handicap parking or access to handicap access to docks?
Yeah, no, I'll take that as a very important feedback, and we will have a look at that to see how we can address that.
Okay. Next question. While there are 4 boat launches on the upper river, there's only 1 access on the lower river. Should the priority be given to improve the Queenston launch? It's important for the guide and business. It generates significant economic benefits from a guide guest and recreational anglers. So again, comparing the lower to upper rivers and the fact that there's only the 1 on the lower river should be given a priority.
Yep. So just, I'm hearing it now, but let us know that in your feedback. In the survey, there's the ability to prioritize the sites. So if Queenston rises to the top, then we can route some more dollars to the Queenston work and try to address the concerns from the public from this session.
Okay. This is a specific question about Queenston and the ramp. So parking certainly is important, but there's a rock wall along the ramp that needs to be extended. The cross current that comes through the end of the dock makes the ramp difficult to use.
Okay, I have heard that before, so that is something that we can look to address. So make sure you document that and note that in your survey or in your comments.
Okay. Next question is, a launch dock is dangerous. A dock does not meet the launch requirements. There is approximately 10 to 15 feet of open water. Will you add a plank or that enables boaters to access the dock from the ramp without having to wade into water?
Yeah, no, that's good feedback. So we will definitely look at that, especially considering the fact that, there's a feeling there that it's not safe. So we will definitely prioritize that.
General question about the estimated revenue from these charges and will it be enough?
Well, again, this will be the first time where we're trialing this or piloting something like this. So we truthfully don't have any data as to how many people would utilize the site. So I can't tell you right now how much money we're going to generate. It's not going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's going to be a few thousand. But in our point with the current situation, anything will help. And whatever comes in will be routed to these sites. That's the plan. That's what we're talking about. So we just figure we have to start somewhere, and this will be year 1 of the process. But we can assure you that the dollars will be utilized towards the launch sites.
Okay. I just got a couple more questions on Queenston, and then we'll go on to the next site. So will the fees keep the docks in at Queenston in the winter?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, Steve?
Will the fees help keep the docks in at Queenston during the winter?
That can be, again, a comment we take back. That was not the plan, but something we can look at. Um, I mean, this is more about repairs and making sure the infrastructure stays intact for the continued use during the season. But we can look at that.
Okay. A comment regarding the rapid or high water level fluctuations at Queenston. And
Yeah.
when the water is high, the dock is at a 45-degree angle. Can this issue be corrected?
Yeah, so great comment. We did see this last year. One of the thoughts we had was to extend the system so we would have more of a floating dock and we could move up and down a bit more with the water level. We currently don't have that ability without making those modifications. So if that, is the priority because of the high water level, then that's something we can look at more in shorter term than longer term.
Okay. So could we maybe just advance the slide to the next site? So hopefully just queues up some questions about the next property. I'll keep going here though. General comment about, again, there's two large boulders that lead to the launch area. The boulders are regularly hit by vehicles trailering and making the turn past them. Will the boulders be moved farther back to make for a wider access? So again, that's a Queenston.
Yeah, and we can definitely look at that. That's not something too difficult for our own teams to do. If you give us that feedback, if it's an important issue, I mean, I'm hearing it now, of course, we can have a look at that when we summarize the information.
Okay. This question is, I do not see reference to boat launches in the Parks Commission 2020-2021 business plan. What is the capital forecast for boat launch revenue? Again, I think you've answered that question. This is early days. My question is there several $100,000 in costs that the commission will cover if there's a shortfall?
Yeah, it'll be, as we're describing, slow and steady. We'll start with some priorities that can be done in the short term, not just with the monies that come in, but whatever we need to do to make them safe is the plan. And then we'll work our way from there in year 2 and year 3, and hopefully have more money to put towards these boat launches in the near future.
There's just a general fee question, and it's a concern about applying fees at the sites, and the equivalent fees were required for the Glen Queenston Heights Park. I guess that we'll take this as a comment and a concern. Is there a potential for reduced rates for local residents?
Yeah. So again, whatever we offer as the Niagara Parks Commission, we have to offer to everyone from Ontario. So that's the way our mandate is. It's province of Ontario. So everyone would have that same opportunity, whatever the rates are.
So next question, has there been any investigation about another location in the lower river because of the congestion that's happening at Queenston? Is there another location on the lower river?
I can tell you there has not been the thoughts of another site. You could, if you feel strongly or have good information, share it with us if there is another site. But again, creating a new site would be costly. And in the short term, that's not what we're looking at doing. We're looking at trying to improve, repair, bring back the sites that are currently intact.
Okay. So I'm gonna skip down here. We have a few more questions for Queenston we can come back to. The next one, actually, if we can advance to Netherby.
Sure.
Questions. A lot of kayakers use Netherby launch for the Black Creek access.
Okay.
If you close it, it could still be launched using the ramp, understanding that there would not be a dock. So if you close it, I'm not sure.
Steve, I made the comment about example. Netherby is one that I didn't think from our information was overly utilized. And we just made that comment about tell us if it's one that could possibly be closed or one that really remains to be open. But we're not going to close any site as long as we can continue to make them safe for year 1. But we want your feedback. So is the feedback here that I'm reading into also potentially close it as a boat launch site and potentially restructure it to being a kayak or canoe launch site. I mean, I would like that clarification or that feedback if we could. Maybe that's another idea that would help serve, more of the public, that it's not just a boat launch site. We can have the other 5, and that one could be modified or to suit other uses.
All right. I'm going to move along then to, I guess there was one comment about Netherby as well that I saw. Is there a concern of excessive repairs at Netherby? Your best understanding?
Yeah, so from what I've seen, actually, no. Netherby needs probably one of the least amount of repairs. So that's why I said we won't be closing it. I'm just suggesting that in order to pool the money and do more at, the prime sites, if that's what you would call them, I was making a recommendation, for example, if we close Netherby, but there's no plan to close Netherby. We just want to hear from you on the feedback of what you think we should do and how we should prioritize the work for year 1.
Okay. Just a general statement here about recognizing the condition of the launches. They're seen as quite a terrible condition, and some have been neglected for decades and are actually unsafe. So thank you for that comment. There's a question, is there government access grants that could be used for a project like this?
So, and we have Corey here tonight. He does actually often apply for grants more on the environmental side, but we have looked. We haven't seen anything in the last, let's say, several months, because we have been looking for any grant opportunities to help with some of the capital work that we can't get at in the current situation.
Okay. This next question is again for the lower river. Was there any thought opening up another ramp much closer to the mouth of the river? Again, that could be an ownership of land issue and access, but we'll take that comment.
Right, and at this point, Steve, I can say, I mean, we're not looking at creating new sites. If we were to close a site and maybe, to look at a future site, but I think right now we're really looking at trying to maintain the current sites and bring them to a level that people can continue to use them.
Okay. This question is about winter use. Have we actually done any tracking during the winter to see how many people use the ramps all year long? I'm not aware of any tracking that's been done.
Yeah. No, we have not done any tracking to my knowledge.
Okay. And again, a similar statement about wintertime use of the sites. So.
Yeah. So Steve, maybe the individuals asking those questions can tell us a little bit more on the survey online about what that use is, if it's fishing or if there's another use there. Those questions are being asked on the online survey. So hopefully if you could do that for us, that will help us understand your question a bit better.
Okay. This is just a question. Have we ever considered creating a dock next to Fort George dock? So again, that would be a shared responsibility, I think, with Parks Canada.
Yeah.
Another beat dock question. It needs to be lengthened and is leaning on an angle. So this question comes from somebody who uses the dock for launching their boat, along with several other people in the Black Creek area.
And then Steve, I would ask that they give us an idea, because we're asking the questions like, how big of a boat and trailer is going in there? So how much more length, do we require, and can we do it within, the certain dollars? So if you can please give us that information about, do you have a feel for how much, length we need to add, and what length of boat and trailer are you working with, so that we can figure this out?
Okay. This question is, have we talked to anybody at the Chippewa Dock Committee? I guess they have a very good quality dock, best in Niagara. So.
Yeah, so I see that. My counterpart at the city of Niagara Falls, I have spoken to him. We have, when we were looking at replacing the full system, we did look at their design. who implemented it. So yes, we're in conversation about that. I don't think we're in a position to fully replace right now for a few $100,000. But help us prioritize, the work, and then give us some feedback on where you feel, the new boat launch or the new structure should be of all the sites. Just give us that feedback so we can prioritize.
I believe this is related to Netherby, or I'm not certain, but it says that a lot of bigger boats already can use the ramp. So another comment that suggests Netherby is probably one of the better, best shaped docks.
Okay.
And
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the comment we made earlier. We recognize that Netherby is the one that needs probably the least amount of work at this point in time.
This question go back to Queenston. Can the extended wall front dock be left in during the winter?
Okay. Again, we can look at that comment, but can you give us a little bit more information? Is it to launch a boat? What is it to do? And we can look if it's fishing, if it's bird watching, if it's just enjoying the view. Just give us a little bit more feedback if you could on the survey about that. There's an area where you can tell us the site and why and what you want to see there.
Okay. Maybe we can advance the slide to Anger Avenue. We haven't really heard much from that part of the river. Just to sort of spawn questions if people have ideas.
So Steve, I can take the point on Anger Avenue. I mean, I know that there's only room for a couple vehicles and trailers on at a time. We have a lot of boaters there that park on the shoulder and grass. There we feel we need a parking expansion. Again, it requires archaeology, but we're hoping to hear from the feedback if that's the big issue there, or if there are other issues that should be prioritized.
Okay. This question going back to Queenston, would we consider having a dock master present?
Yeah, at this point, we're doing it with the equipment, with the parking equipment. So it's basically a parking / launch fee. It's automated. We do respect that people will pay that use the site. And we'll go from there. I mean, we want to try it as soon as we start putting people there. There's an added cost to us unless the recommendation is somebody's going to do it for free. But I think we're going to start with this recommendation of a machine that is automated. You can buy your annual pass, you can buy your daily pass, and we don't require any other labor on site.
Okay. Sorry, jumping around a bit. This is a question related to at Black Creek. The average boat size is approximately 25 feet. Okay. And when the Netherby dock was rebuilt after a bad vehicle accident, it was built a bit too short.
Okay. And Steve, again, we'd ask that individual, what is too short, but knowing now a little bit more about the boat lengths, which we also ask in the survey, we can make that determination of how much longer we need to go. But please, if you have the information or already, tell us, and we can just move ahead quicker.
Mm-hmm. Another question here for using all parking lots and boat launch sites together.
Yeah, so we did consider that. We figured for year one, we wanted to be able to isolate, because then we can see and gather data off each site, how many people are paying, to give us roughly an idea of how many people are launching. So we wanted to gather that separately. The overall parking fee in the park next year is going to be only $60 to park at all our other sites, but it will not be a combined fee with the boat launch fee of $120. And again, we need those dollars to put back into the infrastructure there, but we'll look at that in the future. We would like to do more combination passes, so it's all in one. But at this point, we want to see at least one season of just collecting the fees and making the improvements at those sites.
Okay, a general question on fees. So do shore anglers fishing at these access points need to pay as well, assuming that they are parking but not using the ramp?
Yeah, so this is a boat launch parking fee. Basically, we're using the parking equipment. And yes, anybody who parks at those sites, it's like a parking fee. You would have to pay for the annual pass, or if you're not interested in that, pay for a daily pass. So yes, you know, whether you're fishing or you're going down to parking there, because the idea is these are the 6 sites that the park offers to try to get people into the water and get them into the river. So we need to use these sites for that purpose. Everybody is welcome, but if they're going to use a spot in the parking area, that's going to limit a boater or somebody who was going to launch. So we determined that everybody, to be equal, would pay the fee if they're parked, whether they launch a boat or they don't launch a boat. You would pay the fee or buy the annual pass if that's one of your favorite spots.
Okay. Question about Anger boat launch. So again, the concern about can we simply just smooth out the tire ruts? Obviously, paving the launch area would be helpful, as well as extending the parking area would be helpful.
Yeah, well, for sure. We noted that we can, you know, we can fill potholes and we can smoothen things out, and but either way, it just doesn't survive to the elements of the vehicles and the trailers unless we do something more substantial, dig it out, you know, put in gravel, compact it. So all those things, if we're expanding, we're doing, you know, potentially archaeology. If we're not expanding and fixing current areas, we still have to spend some money to do that properly. So yes, we can fill things, but from what we've seen, that's what we've been doing the last couple of years. They just get torn up the following, within even the same season.
Okay.
So we need to do something more.
This is just a general comment. We can investigate. There was a survey done a few years ago on all the ramps and revenue generated from fishing in Niagara region. So we'll follow up, I think, with the region and the municipalities on that to see if there is data on overall
Okay.
collection.
Okay. Thank you.
And sorry. So again, this is for Anger.
Yep.
The ramp and the dock is short, and it's also considered best for the location. So it's in a good spot. It's really short. Could the ramp be widened to allow 2 lanes and a dock on each side of the ramp? The longer dock would allow parking on both sides, which would speed up launching and loading. There doesn't seem to be a concern about parking on the grass.
Okay. Okay. No, that's a good suggestion. We could look at that. If you could prioritize the, you know, the site and the recommendation, we'll see how many others feel the same way. And if that's important because that's such a busy site, you know, we can look at that.
Okay. This question's about plans to test for the use of ramps at all the sites. Are there plans to build a business case on year 1 ramp sales? So I guess basically the priority for year 1.
Yeah. So after year 1, you know, we summarize the data, we look at the dollars, and we look at how much we need to spend. And at that point, I mean, we'll look at the next steps. Really, it is a year of learning and collecting data and trying to bring in a little bit of money so that we can keep these sites open. I have to reiterate, they're getting to the point where we would have to close them, and we do not want to do that. And we're going to need everybody's help, a little bit of help to, you know, get us there where we can do these repairs.
Okay. So I just like to remind everybody, we have about 10 minutes left. There's a couple of sites I haven't heard any comments on. I mean, Nichols, maybe we can advance the slide to Nichols. certainly if you've got questions at the other sites, it's going to help us understand the priority. We certainly heard lots of comments about Queenston tonight and Anger, and as well Netherby. But if there's other questions regarding the other sites, please type your questions in and we'll be happy to get you some answers. This is a question about Queenston. Is there an opportunity to keep people who fish off the dock for safety reasons, allowing them to fish in other areas?
Yeah. So what we're trying to collect is, and again, I do recognize Queenston is a more used or frequently used for fishing. From what I've seen, we've been able to do that safely, but for sure the boat launches themselves are meant for launching boats. So if that's, a common problem that you're seeing or concern, if you can note that and communicate that through the survey, and then we can assess and have a look at whether we can do something. But the whole idea with this infrastructure is to launch your boat. So that is the primary use.
Okay. There's a general comment here, observation about 30% of anglers are from out of town. So thank you for that observation. This is our first COVID question. So if we do move into the red zone, we ask that you do not close any boat ramps at this time. We did have to close boat launches last spring.
So Steve, I know that's a sensitive one, and I can address that because I was obviously with the whole team here working through the whole COVID nightmare, and that's a provincial direction. If we are in red and the provincial directive is that boat launches or certain sites have to be closed off, then we have to close them off. And I do recall that we asked the question at the time, and that was something that we needed to do as part of the COVID when it struck. Now, having learned a lot more about COVID, and we're all still learning, if that situation arises again, we will be sure to ask the question and make sure that we're following provincial direction on closing or not closing. So.
This is just a general question about reinvesting for the revenue. So will the investment go back into the exact site where the comment comes from? So will the fees go back into
thank you, Steve. So the idea is that it won't necessarily go back into that one site. Every site is different and requires a different level of investment. So the plan was that we deal with any safety issues, any more critical issues first. So that might be, for example, Netherby. Netherby doesn't need a lot of work. Any money that's generated at Netherby could be used at Queenston. So no, there is no plan to only use what's generated at a site for that site. It's a bit of a reserve or a fund for all sites in order of priority.
Okay. This question's for Nichols. It's related, can we fix the launch drop-off where the concrete ends underwater? Boat trailers have been damaged when trying to take the boats out of the water.
Yeah, again, we recognize that. We're hearing it. So if that becomes the priority for that particular site, then as the monies come in, that will be one of the first tasks that we try to do.
Okay. And can Nichols Dock be extended so that boaters can use both sides of the dock?
Okay. Yep. So if they can provide, that individual could provide a little bit more information again about, how much they're thinking about the extension and, a little bit more feedback to help us put that in the online survey, and we could definitely look at that.
There's just a comment about appreciate access through these boat launches. So thank you for that comment. And then there's another comment about Nichols. This is one that you could close because of the repair and the bad current at that location.
Okay. Now, my understanding too from Nichols is that it has a lot of use. So we want to hear that from you. Like if I'm wrong in that assumption or information, then tell us when you prioritize the launches and when you give us that feedback, because it would be great if we could condense a little bit and focus our dollars in making, the last 5 or 4 ramps better.
Yeah, this question is similar to your just statement there, Marcelo, that Nichols Launch is a high-use parking area with vehicles and boat trailers parked right up to the curb on the grass side and the north side past the launch concrete pad. So could we create an expanded parking in that area?
Yep, that's definitely one of the potentials. If that's prioritized, by the public, we'll take that feedback and we'll look at that first.
Another comment regarding Nichols, that the dock is far too short. The ramp needs to be rebuilt, prioritized instead of installing parking.
We have a bike repair station at the site.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're trying to make the sites, conducive to all, to activities, but okay, we'll take that. Take that note back.
About 5 minutes left. I just we haven't heard anything about Miller's Marina. If we could flip to that slide, please. Thank you again. Another comment about Nichols, it's closest launch to Lake Erie access, and it's definitely high use and very important. Thank you for that comment.
Okay, so we have a comment to close Nichols and focus on Anger.
We have, yes, agree with closing Nichols and put the money into Anger.
Okay. I see some other comments, right, that would counter that thought. So if you can just document that in the survey, then we can kind of see the results and make a decision from there.
The question is, have we considered forming a committee about how to design better ramps?
No, we haven't considered a committee. We do have lots of contractors and even the city and others that we've talked to about who builds these. And if we move into building a new one or a major modification, we would go to a contractor that has experience building ramps. So haven't considered a committee. That could be a comment for sure that you could put on the survey. And if we see that enough, we can seriously look at that.
Apart from the survey and the feedback process, have we considered working with local interest groups or clubs to help prioritize?
Well, that's really what we're trying to do today. We're trying to get that feedback from locals, from people who use these ramps, so that we can inform the information we already have and make some good decisions. And like we said, you can do it through the survey. You can contact us. We're definitely available to listen and review any ideas or thoughts that you may have.
Okay. This question, could you add a small ramp at each of the launch sites for just a jet ski or small aluminums or kayaks?
Yeah, so that comment has come up a couple times about a different potential launch. Again, right now we weren't looking at adding. The idea came up about Netherby, whether we would convert one so that could be a site for maybe some other use other than boats. But again, at this point, we're not looking at adding more. We're trying to fix the infrastructure that's there. But that's something, hopefully, with your feedback, if that becomes important, then in the future we could look at that. But in the short term, we're really focused on trying to prioritize the work at the current launches.
Okay, we're just about out of time. So again, when we close the presentation tonight, everybody who has logged in will actually receive a link to the survey. There's about 12 questions in the survey, and we ask you to consider prioritizing sites as well as prioritizing the types of investments. There's also opportunities to submit comments through the email that you'll see shortly. So I'll ask one question here on Miller's. Could we put 2 ramps at Miller's to take over overflow access from Nichols? So could we install a second ramp at Miller's?
Okay, well, we'll take that back. If that gets prioritized, again, we're not looking at adding more infrastructure. We want to fix what's there first, and then we would look at more longer term, trying to deal with the what sounds like an elevated use at the one site.
Okay, well, and to respect everybody's time who's dialed in, and again, all questions that have been typed in will be recorded as part of this process. And maybe if we could go to the next step slide, thank you. So again, I do want to thank everybody for their participation tonight. It's very helpful. As I say, it's Marcelo's highlighted, it's a large undertaking, and we do want to make wise investments. This is a long-term strategy. It's not something we're going to be able to fix overnight. So again, we encourage you participate with the survey. The website itself is available, and we will, about 5 days from now, be posting all results from this presentation. It has been recorded, so the recorded will be available for anybody who could not participate tonight. So again, thank everyone for submitting your questions. And with that, I think I'm going to sign off. I apologize for my poor bandwidth tonight, so hopefully that wasn't too distracting for all those who are listening.
Thank you.